off top, you know who the first ever draft pick was? Well, the first professional sports draft in American pro sports was in 1936. It was an NFL draft, and University of Chicago had a halfback named Jay Berwanger. He won the Heisman Trophy, and the Eagles drafted him. But he decided not to play for the Eagles and take a much more lucrative offer to be a rubber salesman. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
What up, Charlie?
How we doing?
Good, man. I was a rubber salesman, real lucrative back in the day.
Hey, it's less CTE.
Yeah, it's true, but I don't think it was lucrative. I just think they wasn't paying nobody no money to play football. But yeah, that was, you know how I feel about the draft. Like, I appreciate growing up and loving the draft. It's pretty cool. It's fun. And then having been a part of it, had my name called, is also really cool. But when I was doing a little bit of research about my off top, it reminded me why the draft is here. The draft is here to control wages. But I will not ruin anybody else's fun. Let's go. Let's celebrate. Let's have a draft. So I wanted to approach this a little differently than most pre-draft shows do. So you guys can watch the draft tonight, but I wanted to approach it from the idea of what teams can make a pick that will put them in championship contention. Like, who is close? Who needs a piece? Who doesn't need a piece? Who has an opportunity to change the fortunes or improve the fortunes of their team dramatically, to the point where we're talking about them in February, not just talking about them in April. So I went through all the teams and made like a tiered system of teams. And I think you're going to like this. Get ready. I know how you like these type of word plays. I guess this isn't word play, but these type
love tiers.
Yeah.
Love puns.
So yeah, here we go. I decided to go with the window motif because, you know, like championship window.
Yeah.
So, all right, the first group, the top tier, we outside. They're not even concerned about the window. They are all the way outside. These are teams that it does not necessarily matter what they do in this draft. Of course, they can change and prove their standing, but they are Super Bowl contenders. They are already outside. They are not looking at the window. I think it's pretty easy. Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Philadelphia. All those teams, I think, no matter what they do on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they are in championship contention. You said, you disagree with that?
I have 3 of those 4 in that tier.
So you're either taking out the Bills or the Bengals. I would assume, let me guess who you took out. You took out the Bengals.
I took out the Buffalo Bills.
What?
Yeah. We saw the fragility of that roster, and I think we're assuming that they're going to be a dominant defensive team, and they have needs on offense, and they are not as we saw how a stout defense can become less stout over the course of that season. They're my next tier. They're still my really good tier, but they're my next tier.
Yeah. So I don't think the thing about the offense is there are holes in the offense, but I'm not concerned about the offense because they have a guy. You know, I think they can improve the offense. And this is another, I don't know, we need like a sounder or a terminology so it's not weird when I repeat things that I think are important. But this is one of the things about football that I find have come to be one of my philosophies about like winning is the like general principle in football, because it's such an interdependent game. Everyone is so reliant on each other. A general principle that I have is you want to be able to take pressure off of other position groups or take pressure off of other parts of your team because you are so good or great at one spot, which is why sometimes you might have great defensive line and still draft another defensive lineman, because like having a dominant defensive line to me is probably more valuable than like bolstering a cornerback group that can go from okay to slightly better than okay. But I bring that up when we talk about the Bills because Josh Allen's that guy where it's like, And I don't know how to approach it. Does it mean that because he's so good that we ignore the offense and try to address the defense? Because the defense was really good last year. Try to reconstruct the defense, but I'm not sure. I think that's why you let the draft board determine it for you, where it's kind of like, hey, if it comes down to a choice between someone you evaluate as like filling a hole, because everyone in the NFL is good. No one's awful. It's not like in college where if you don't recruit a position, you might end up with a walk-on who just stinks. Like in the NFL, everyone's good enough. So sometimes the question is, to use Madden ratings, like, do you want to go from a 75 to an 85 player in this? You like that or you don't like it? I got the face.
No, I do like that. I like that.
Do you want to go from a 75 to an 85 for a particular position, or do you want to just keep piling up on what you do well? And I tend to think you're better off piling on what you do well. D-line's always a good example because you got a dominant D-line.
Yeah.
You can really get away with hiding a bunch of other deficiencies on defense. What were you about to say?
I was going to say, well, I see it the same way, but I see it helping Josh Allen. Like, I think you're going to go to the defense. I'm going to go to the wide receiver position, where I do think they need a number 2 receiver in the first or second round. This is an interesting draft to wide receivers because there's no one. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba, but there's no one really at the top of the draft. Like next year, we're going to hear a ton about Marvin Harrison Jr. and how he's a 6'4" version of his dad. And he's going to be the best receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson. But there are a bunch of interesting guys that are going to probably go between a 27 and a 50. And it's like, if they end up with a Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnson or type of guy like that, I would be really excited. And that's the type of pick that we're talking about, where it's like, if you use your day 1 and day 2 picks, they could go from my second tier of, I'm not sure what the pun's going to be, but up into the Windows wide open tier.
So the Zay Flowers, I think he's really good. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll be around for the Bills, but I could be wrong. He's also not a big guy, which I think you want to try to mix, like have like a basketball team, like guards and centers and forwards, different size pass catchers. But with a guy like Josh Allen, who struggled against man coverage, we saw what happened when he got somebody who was going to kill man coverage, and that person was Stephon Diggs. You put another guy who's going to kill man coverage, I think that's not a bad thing. If he's still around, I wouldn't pass up on him. And I think you got me wrong. Like, I tend to want to go with defense, but I'd like to see them go with Jordan Addison or somebody like that. Somebody, whoever's
slot.
Yeah, whoever's available. Not whoever's available, but if one of these top 3 guys are available when they get to them, I think that they're better off doing that. And it's not as much. And these guys, these good teams are in a position where they can be a little bit more like best player available. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like best player combined with like positional impact in your system. And I think that what they do well there is throw the football. And if they could get somebody else to continue to do that well, they could get up on people and make life easier for their team. So they have a bunch of other needs, but that's what I would. Well, not a bunch of other needs. They have deficiency at linebacker at this point, but I mean, there's nobody in this draft that jumps out to me as having as big an impact, specifically at a kind of low impact position. Although they put pressure on their linebackers to do a lot of coverage, but I don't know. We don't need any more time with them. I think we agree. If they can get a receiver, that improves their championship window. And you also have to always be kind of conscious of the next phase. And the next phase is not going to involve Stephon Diggs at some point. Like the next phase of Josh Allen. But that leads me to another team that I think is already at that next phase decision point. That's the Cincinnati Bengals. And we could do a whole podcast on the Bengals. I spent a lot of time in my preparation thinking about the Bengals, because let me frame up what the Bengals are doing in this draft. I think what happens in this draft, whoever falls to them can kind of determine what they're going to do for, because they're at this kind of crossroads in my view, where it's time to decide what kind of team they are going to transition into. And that's because their offense right now has been built around 2 number 1 receivers who are underpaid.
Yes.
They either have to decide that they are going to go all in on paying 2 receivers number 1 receiver money with Higgins and
Chase.
there you go. Chase and Higgins. Boyd kept popping in my head. I was like, no, not Boyd.
He's good too.
I know he's good too, but he's not. Yeah, he's not the one. Yeah. So, and I was just thinking back, and Mahomes is the first example comes to mind, is how they transitioned that offense away from Tyreek Hill, and that was smart, and try to prolong this window and put a lot more pressure on Patrick Mahomes. I also popped into my mind was how many times the Patriots kind of remade their offense.
Yeah.
And how they went from run-based offense to a Randy Moss-based offense to a 2 tight ends based offense to a Gronkowski only based offense. It's like that's understanding that you can't continue to do that is where the Bengals are right now. And depending on who gets to them, they're 28th. So again, they'll be looking at some of these same guys. If Zay is still around, I think they probably go for him. Or, well, actually, I don't think they go for Zay. The one guy in this draft that I think if he's still around, they'll get him is Dalton Kincaid. He's a tight end out of Utah, who I think is an outstanding pass catcher. Who is somebody?
There are 3 good tight ends in this draft. 3 very fun, different tight ends.
Yeah, they're fun and different. Dalton Kincaid is the only one that I think that if he was still around and I was the Bengals, I would consider drafting him in preparation for allowing Higgins to leave and then trying to build something akin to Kelsey Tyreek Hill combo.
Oh, you're not going to go with keep the Burrow Brady comp going, a Burrow Brady Gronk Kincaid type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could, but I needed a spot for my man Chase. So that was the comparison that I thought made more sense. But all right, if they're not there, and I think the Bengals did some interesting things in the offseason. Obviously, they went and got Orlando Brown. They stole him from the Chiefs to address their offensive line, which really matters. The other really interesting thing about their offseason is their secondary, a shambles.
Yes.
Like, I know no one's crying over losing Eli Apple, but Eli Apple's a NFL cornerback. He's a starting NFL cornerback. He's not like a shutdown corner, but he's somebody that you can put out there and you're not going to freak out. He's gone. Jesse Bates is a top tier NFL safety. He's gone. So I think that if Dalton Kincaid falls to them, which I doubt that he does, he's really talented.
Yeah.
I would
top 15 on a lot of boards.
Yeah, I would take him. Otherwise, I'd try to get one of those corners because I think this draft is pretty good with corners. And again, they're at the end of the draft, so the top corners may not be there, but you know who will be there? The second best cornerback in the history of Maryland football, Deonte Banks. I think you go with Deonte Banks there. He's a super athlete. And I was joking. He's definitely better than I was, but he is incredible. I think an impact player. And this is a time when I would go away from the idea of stockpiling on your strength. And I would lean towards let's address these holes because cornerback's the most important position on defense and they ain't got none. So they need to get them.
So I agree. Defensive back for sure. And this is this is a draft, I think, where unless you are in that top 4 or 6 picks, it's not bad to be at the bottom because there are interesting guys who you look at defensive backs that could be around there. Deonte Banks, Keely Ringo, who was awesome at Georgia. And it's anytime you can get a super successful big Georgia football player on your defense, take the big Georgia player. It works pretty much every time. But I wanted to circle back around on one thing with their offense, which is a pretty amazing stat, which is when, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are both only under contract for this year. So that's going to be a change in their team moving forward. But when you have Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase on the field, they're averaging 6 yards a play. So for this year or moving forward, if they're able to contractually fit and build around that offense, it's basically saying if you have those three guys out on the field, you're going to get a first down whenever you want it. And that's pretty remarkable. And if they had a defense to match that for this year.
And that's with bad O-line play.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just saying, like, if you can go load up on this year and have, a more solid defense that's not going to hold that team back.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I like that as a choice for them, is to lean in on addressing that secondary. I mean, if someone else falls to them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is Jahmyr Gibbs has been rumored, who people really compare to Alvin Kamara. I mean, I feel like anyone who can catch the ball, who sort of has like a shifty style, they're gonna be like, it's Alvin Kamara. But again, we've seen sometimes how those luxury picks of running backs at the end of the first round go. Not exactly my cup of tea.
Yeah, I don't like that as a pick for a team like this that has a bunch of needs. I mean, if Bijan's still there, then you consider it, but I doubt Bijan's gonna be around.
If Bijan Robinson is there at 28, the pick will be made 1 second when they're on the clock.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, Mel has them going with a defensive tackle out of Clemson, Brian Brees, and McShay's on my page, Deonte Banks. I like that. Go ahead and get Deonte Banks up in there, or whichever of the best corners is still available. Philly, obviously, they are
fascinating.
The best roster in football. They were last year. I just realized that before the season started, I picked Kansas City over Philadelphia for the Super Bowl. I was right. It doesn't happen often, so I'll take that. Remind the people. But their roster is pretty much loaded. I mean, they lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which I think is a big loss. He was a safety that seemed like he intercepted the ball in every game they played in. And I think that this is a team that could go after defensive line depth, even though they brought back a lot of that incredible defensive line. They are aging, and this is a pick for some impact now. Maybe if they get Tyree Wilson, the edge player from Texas Tech, maybe somebody can come in and be impactful immediately. But it's more about trying to make sure that stable is full, because that is how they won defensively. Mm-hmm. That is how they won. And I don't know if you want to move away from that. You want to be sure that you can ensure that you can survive injuries or whatever else that could possibly happen. So I think that's an interesting place for them to go. There's the rumors, or not the rumors, but the some idea that Bijan Robinson, the all-pro potential running back out of Texas, rumors that he could go there at number 10. And a few months ago, before I started looking seriously at that, I convinced myself that it would be a good idea. I don't think it'd be a good idea. It'd be fun as hell. But for this team, the way that's built, I don't think that going after Bijan.
Why don't you think it would be a good idea?
I don't think it would be a bad idea. I just think that there are better ideas to be had out there, particularly because I think that the strength of this team is their offensive and defensive line. And there are players out there, and they're getting old in both of those spots. Like interior on offensive line, they're getting old. And I guess at least one tackle, two. Yeah. And their entire defensive line, I know they're trying to bring in Jordan Davis, but
they lost Javon Hargraves to the 49ers. They're assuming Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean are going to fill linebacker and defensive line spots, but those are big ifs.
Yeah, I like strengthening that defense. Or again, I think this is going to be a recurring theme. Go ahead and get a cornerback. Go ahead and get one if he's there. If it's Christian Gonzalez, if he's still there. You might want to look at him. If they have the Philly has the 10 and the 30.
10 and 30.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind them bolstering their corner, because they got two older corners that won't be there for much longer and could potentially get hurt. And their defense certainly thrived on the flexibility that they could potentially have and the playmaking ability of talented corners. So there's not a safety that's good enough to look at the 10 spot. Maybe at the 30 spot, you could get a safety to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. but you could also get there's some. I think the more interesting edge players, since there's not like one complete standout edge player, like Chase Young, who apparently Washington is not that interested in. Since there's not one guy like that, I kind of like the edge players at the end of the draft for the value. So at that 30 spot, they could get an edge player. They could also trade out, which is what I think Kuiper suggested, that they would trade with Seattle, that 30 pick with Seattle. So Seattle could come in and get Hendon Hooker, a quarterback of the future. And the Eagles.
Future, he's the same age as Gino.
It's not fair. It's not fair, and it's not true. I'm just telling you what talk. I'm just telling you what Mel put out there. So anyway, so those are options for the 10 and the 30 pick, but they can't really mess it up. And the reason why I'm like less inclined to go Bijan, like they picked up Rashard Penny, and I think he'll be a good addition. Their running back room is not empty, and I can reiterate all the things that you guys already know about the value of running backs, how easy it is to find good replacements. And I think the argument for it is their offense is already really good, so why not completely overpower someone and make it a full pick your poison situation, which I don't necessarily hate. But I think when you have a team like this that's as well built as they are, I wouldn't do the like all-in move, because you draft Bijan assuming that you got him at 6 years, 5 or 6 years tops. I think that this team is one that is going to be competitive, or has the opportunity with young, talented players at a lot of important positions. If you draft well and hit on some draft, you have a chance to be pretty well positioned for quite some time. So I still don't hate the Bijan pick, but I think they're better served elsewhere.
I do think they should go all in on their first round pick, but not for Bijan Robinson, who I like a lot because of his workout, because of off the field issues. Jalen Carter is now mocked at the 9th pick in the draft.
No way.
I know.
No way. So like, yeah, I didn't even entertain that as a possibility.
You have 3 of the top 62 picks. You don't need to use all of them to move up. If you only had to move up 2 spots, strength on strength, the best player in this draft could potentially drop out of the top 4.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. I don't believe that's going to be the case. But if that happens, like Howie Roseman has been the luckiest and smartest man ever. It has to run out at some point. Like, Jordan Davis fell to him last year. Like, there's no way that if he's still around at the 10, so you're saying move up to like 7 or 8?
5, 6, or 7 or 8. But like, let's look at this. We know we have a really good idea right now that we're going to get Bryce Young at the top, unless the Texans are just totally fucking with us. It looks like it's going to be Will Levis with the number 2 pick. It looks
that's not going to be Will Levis.
Will Anderson's going to go 3, and we know the Colts like big quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson's going 4. Like, then there's going to be a CJ Stroud pick. Like, you don't have to move up that far, and you have a lot of draft capital. If I'm the Eagles, this is like you're getting the best player in the draft at a premium position at a discount.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not, I don't disagree with you at all. Yeah. If he feels like he's sliding, he's available. And given what, like the bad workout and the driving arrest and all that stuff. Yes, 1,000 times yes. You trade what you need to trade to move up and get him, but I don't think anybody is going to let that happen. Be outrageous.
I know. It's like I literally feel like the Jesse Pinkman gif of you can't keep getting away with this.
How much do you have to? I don't know. I mean, if they had to give up their 2 first-round picks, I would do that in a heartbeat to get him. I would assume that it's going to take more than that, because 10 and 30 is not worth moving up to the 5 spot, which is where you think you have to go, right?
I mean, I think there is a good chance that he could be there at the 6th pick in the draft.
All right. Well, I hope that happens.
Yeah.
Just be so much fun. It'd be absolutely crazy.
Someone's going to play back this tape when he gets taken second by the Texans or third by the Cardinals. They're like, "You idiot!" It's like I'm following the mocks. I'm following
which
Kuiper,
mock?
I'm following the Ringer.
No,
I'm on the Ringer's mock right now, where he's projected as the 9th pick in the draft by Chicago.
Really?
Yes.
God, that's interesting. Oh, all right. I didn't see that one. I assumed that he's going top 5, but whatever.
We got competing mocks.
We do have. I mean, I'm looking at a bunch of different mocks. I'm not looking at that mock because that is wild. I'm not going to say anything too crazy because obviously I respect the work that they're doing, but I'd be absolutely shocked. All right. I'm sorry. I got to refocus because you blew my mind. Did I hit all of the teams yet? We hit Buffalo, Kansas City. We didn't hit Kansas City.
Kansas City is, look, you're going to be in that top tier because you have Patrick Mahomes. They could draft. My note on Kansas City was, of course, it was fun to see them play on all Madden without competent wide receivers last year. Right. And they should probably go that direction for Patrick Mahomes' sanity. But really, they could draft me, and I would still think they were going to be in that top tier for this coming year.
There's not much to talk about with them. I mean, they have to replace Orlando Brown, their left tackle, who we mentioned earlier, went to Cincinnati. I think they brought in Juwan Taylor from Jacksonville, but protecting Patrick Mahomes is actually a pretty good draft for tackles. So getting another tackle is not a bad idea. Getting an edge rusher wouldn't be a bad idea. This is one of those situations where it's like, all right, best available, get them. Whoever's there, get them, put them on your team, make them work.
The only thing that I find interesting about that is, what do you think about the Chiefs' strategy of continuing to sign right tackles at slightly less value to play at left tackle? Is it brilliant, or is it only work last year because Orlando Brown was capable of doing it?
We'll see. If they found a market inefficiency that the rest of us are like, no, people can't flip their feet. You mean do the same thing they're doing over here, over there? Like, it seems stupid. Like, as someone who played cornerback here, you have to run around and you cover both sides of the field. I played left and I played right. It's never been anything that anyone said like, hey, you can't. It doesn't make sense to me. I've never tried to kick, slide, and block. But my assumption is if you can do it on the right side, you can do it on the left side. I'd always thought the reason why tackles stayed on one side or the other was just because like the concept of the left side being the blind side and you want your best tackle over there. But, and again, it's really stupid if people think that you can't play both, or it seems stupid to me. So maybe we need to call some tackles and talk to them.
It's just actually becoming an interesting trend to do it back-to-back years.
Yeah, which is smart. I mean, if you can find that spot, it's smart. But anyway, all right. So the first one was we outside. Now we are on to my next tier. It's the window's open. Well, I just imagine them standing on the inside, but they're looking out the window. They might be able to climb out. These are like teams that I think have the first tier is teams that have kind of already proven it to me. This is the teams that have the roster, the talent, the coaches, but they haven't really shown it yet, and they should be able to. How do you like that? Window open? All right, cool.
Yeah.
So I think
I'm just imagining like a kitchen window with like an idyllic cherry pie on the windowsill wafting out.
All right. Well, the first team that is inside of that window is ESPN's own Dallas Cowboys. They have as good a roster. Yeah. I mean, Jerry Jones has done a great job. Him and his son have done a great job building this roster over the past several years, and their regular season record shows it. Like, they've been consistently one of the better teams, even when they had holes in their roster. And right now, like, they're losing Zeke, which I think most people don't think is a loss. They lost Dalton Schultz, who was a productive tight end for them, which is a loss. And McGovern is gone too as a guard for them. That was really good. But they added Stephon Gilmore, who was still a very good corner last year, to play opposite Trayvon Diggs. They added Brandon Cooks to take the roof off the defense and allow CeeDee Lamb to continue to work. So they have the 26th pick, and I think I'd like for them to go and get Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame if he's still around. I think they have defensive tackle, interior defensive line issues that I'd like to see them address. But aside from that, I don't see any major issues on their defense. Their offensive line is not as great as it once was. I'd love for them to get one of those tackles too. There's a lot of really good tackles in the draft. I think DeJuan Jones seems to me like someone, if he is still around, that Jerry Jones will fall over his chair to go get to replace or to potentially replace Tyron Smith. Because if you don't know DeJuan Jones, he is someone who makes enormous people look normal size. I went to the Maryland game when they played them, and I was on the sideline just hanging out, and I saw really big, impressive football players from Ohio State. Then I saw, and including Paris Johnson.
He's also ginormous.
Yeah, he's the better tackle of the two of them, and offensive tackle, and he's really big. And I see him like, man, ain't nobody getting around that age. And then you see someone who's 2 inches taller and like 30 pounds heavier. Jerry Jones loves a show, so I would be, if he's still around, I wouldn't be surprised they added him there to solidify the offensive line going forward. However, I do think that the best move for them would be to get the tight end if he's still available, because he's a two-way guy, and I think moving on from the Kellen Moore offense, they're going to run the ball a little bit more, is my guess. So that's my thought. Again, I don't think Dalton Kincaid will still be around, but he's also, I don't think he fits the type of tight end that they would want. Maybe if Kellen Moore was still there, they would like Dalton Kincaid, but I think Michael Mayer. What do you think?
I also had Dallas in this tier. I had them. I ranked them in this tier. I actually had them as the last team. I won't reveal the other two that I had ahead. Or I
didn't rank them. I just kind of threw them in there, like in a tier.
Okay, so I also landed on tight end, and I think I like Michael Mayer slightly more than you do. I know what he is. He is going to be pretty good. The thing that's a bummer about drafting tight ends, unless they're special, is they don't usually produce early, and the window is right now with Dallas. With that said, I do think either one of Darnell Washington or Michael Mayer would be interesting. And Darnell Washington, like, part of it was just that he was the second best tight end on the Georgia team, but he is a freak. He is gigantic. And hey, Jerry, you want to put on a show? You get an extra tackle when you have him. You see the video of him pushing the sled at the combine?
Yeah, that's all I've seen. Yeah. That's exactly, as soon as you brought him up, that's exactly what I thought about. It's just how it just looks ridiculous how everyone is struggling with the sled, and he is just pushing it as if he's going for a stroll in the park. He's an incredibly powerful dude. Yeah, I mean, I like the Cowboys more than most people, I think, traditionally, because most people don't think as highly of Dak as I do, but I think that they are well positioned in an NFC that still isn't that strong, and they've shown that they can be competitive and even beat the Eagles. So they're one team that I think is probably not afraid of the Eagles. So
Dak is very good. They've got an incredible roster. Like, they're going to be lingering.
And the loss that they had last year in the playoffs was a tough spot on a short week. But anyway, I'm done defending Dak.
Done carrying the water to get that out.
I'm done carrying.
It was a short week's
for cousin Dak. Yeah, it was a short week. It was a tough team. It's a tough situation. People lose sometimes. Sorry.
He loses every time.
But this would be so that's everyone else. One team won the Super Bowl. Right. This would be a team that I would think would be an interesting, like a good team to bet on to win the Super Bowl if it wasn't for the fact that they were the Cowboys and they're always overvalued. Because I think that they kind of are like they would be a more stealthy pick if it weren't for the fact that we talk about them all the time. But anyway, all right, I'll give you the rest of my Windows Open group to see if you have any objections. It's only two more teams in this group, and I know you had the Bills. I know you had the Bills in here too. All right, I got the 49ers and the Jets.
Yep, exact same.
Good. Let's start with let's go to Jets. Okay. Or Aaron Rodgers talk. So Nathaniel Hackett, you did it. Your job is done. Season's over. Earned your money, Hackett.
But he did. This immediately makes him a great hire.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
unbelievable.
Joking. Nate Hackett did his damn thing. You got him there. Good job. Yeah, there's this team is a team that is close, is comparable talent-wise to the We Outside teams.
Yep.
The only question is, how good is Aaron Rodgers? Was his issues last year with injury, or was his issues with the personnel that they had there? Was his issues with the coaching staff there, or were his issues his issues? And is this change of scenery going to fix the issues? And if he can score and throw the ball around and have success, then they're good. And this, to me, feels like an easy choice for them. The place that they need to address is offensive tackle, and a draft that has enough good tackles that one of them will be there for him and for them. They don't really need any more pass catchers. I mean, they could take some. They don't need any help on defense, really. But of course, if somebody falls to them, that's great. You go ahead and do it. But if the draft goes according to plan, whoever the top tackle that's still around is, bring them in. They've been trying to address that, and they have not successfully done so yet. So bring the tackle to protect Aaron Rodgers. What do you think?
Just keep that old weirdo upright. You have Garrett Wilson. You have all of this talent on offense. The defense was flying around last year and seemed like they're one of those defenses that had like youthful exuberance with how excellent they were. And then obviously they hit a home run with Sauce Gardner, who was probably the best player in last year's draft. Keep the old guy upright. Keep him from being weird. And this team should theoretically be awesome this year. I mean, I think we're on the same page in this.
Right.
Like, I think Rodgers is going to be a lot better this year. Like, there was some weird checked out stuff last year, and he's I think he's closer to the 2 MVP quarterback than the mediocre quarterback we saw last year.
Yeah, it's an absurd cliff that he fell off of, and he showed us some glimpses of that 2 MVP talent towards the end of last season. So we'll see. I don't think there's much else to talk about with them. Yeah. We talk about them enough. The other team that we agreed on is the 49ers. They have managed to be near or in the Super Bowl a lot recently without having a quarterback. And that still remains the biggest roster hole on his team. It's absurd to me that they are in this tier, but I got to be honest. They're in this tier because they deserve to be in this tier. They've had success without quarterbacks in the past, or without the type of quarterbacks we think you need to have success in the past. So, yeah, and their offensive line isn't what it once was. They need some there, but the defensive line is still pretty incredible. The corners was a spot that they have been investing in, but it's a little weaker now. Then they lose a couple people at corner, right?
Yeah.
They lost Mosley, right? Yeah, Mosley. Yeah. They lost. They still have Travaris Ward, who's really good. They lost McGlinchey, and they lost Jimmy Ward at safety. So they have some issues in their secondary, but this is one of those teams that having an improved secondary helps, but they're powered by their defensive line, and their defensive line, there's no reason to believe that they're not going to be whooping people's ass like they have been recently. That's the interesting thing about this. We give a lot of credit to Kyle Shanahan for manufacturing offense, which he deserves the credit, but honestly think like the way that this defense has played over the last several years is as big a part, if not a bigger part, for why this team is always in the mix. So assuming they'll continue to be able to do that, and a full year and a full off season preparing with McCaffrey, y'all in trouble. So we'll figure out what they're going to do at the quarterback spot. But I think that they're looking. They're on the outside, the window's open, or they're on the inside, the window's open, and they're looking. From a draft perspective, though, I guess, because
they don't have a first or second round pick. Yeah, they have 3 third round picks.
That's what I was about to get to. They got 3 third round picks. So let me go down the list of all the people in the 3rd round that I know will help this team. List over. Like I don't know. Like I don't prep for the draft by looking at 3rd round guys. And also, if you're posted in the 3rd round, you're not going to be an impact player unless you're me, because I was great.
So let's be clear about the 49ers. They're right there with Philly as the best roster in the NFL.
No, they're not.
No, they are. The one difference is they drafted a project quarterback.
Yeah.
That is still a project and we have no idea. Philly
traded a bunch of junk for it.
Yeah. Philly drafted a project quarterback who's an MVP candidate.
Right.
That's the difference in the roster.
I mean, that's fair. But I think the difference in the roster is that Philly traded away their quarterback and got a lot of good stuff for him and supported a second round draft pick quarterback long enough for him to develop into something special. Yes. The 49ers traded away a bunch of stuff to get a guy who, like, I didn't love the idea of trading away the stuff to get him, but once they traded away the stuff, I agreed that was the guy you should get because his ceiling was the highest. But then they've that's why I don't think their roster is the same. Like, they missed out on a lot of draft picks that could help this team, and particularly with the offensive line. Their offensive line is not good.
How dare you add nuance to my point?
Oh, I'm sorry. Good job. Good point. You nailed it. You nailed it. I mean, you do it to me all the time. It's the point of the show. Somebody should. We got to speak for the informed listener. All right. Right. So that's everybody in that tier, right? Or you said no?
No, that's it. That's it. Yeah, we should move on to the final tier.
The final tier, face on the glass. The window's closed, but their face is on the glass. And then anybody who doesn't fall into this particular tier, their curtain's closed. Like this, if you're not here, then you got to open the curtain, you got to lift the window, and you got to climb out. You got a long way to go. So these are teams that I feel like have a lot of things that are difficult to find. And if they have an awesome draft, if they manage to find starters in the first, second, third round, they could possibly make a leap. The face on the glass teams are the Chargers, the Lions, the Jags, and the Broncos, which maybe doesn't make complete sense because they also don't have early draft picks, but they addressed their offensive line in the offseason, which I thought was a huge step. And they got Sean Payton, and Russell can't be that bad. They still got a lot of talent on the defense, although their coordinator's gone. Ajiro Evero, who was a really effective coordinator, only one who was keeping them in games last year, he's gone. They still got Patrick Surtain, who is as good as it gets at cornerback in the league, and he alone is a good enough player to build the defense around. So, yeah, there's not much to talk about for them as far as the draft's concerned because traded all their picks away to get a quarterback who isn't very good right now. But I think that there's some hope there. That was my wild out there. Maybe some people were going to clown me pick, but I can tell by the look in your eyes that you agree with me.
I had it also.
Yes.
It's like there's no point in keeping them out because, okay, we talked a lot about Denver and how good their defense was last year. And I know statistically I haven't looked this up, but I'm sure they didn't end up as the number one overall defense. That's because they lost faith. They lost faith in the fact that their offense could score points. And you saw it at the end of the year where they're just like this. But if Russell Wilson doesn't suck in Sean Payton's offense, the team was going to be really, really good.
I mean, they still have awesome receivers, and I'm sure Sean Payton is looking forward to blowing the dust off of his playbook because he ain't been coaching in a little while, and I guess last time he was coaching, he had a guy who didn't have an arm that could. Well, yeah, he coached after Drew Brees was gone.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I was just
Taysom Hill.
Well, Taysom Hill also doesn't have the arm that Russell has. But anyway,
they had Jameis Taysom that one.
Yeah, Jameis and Taysom, which is neither of them are Russell. And I know Russell's not good right now, but there's hope for him. He's been humbled. They took his office or whatever, all the stuff they gave him, and he is back in the lab trying to be
fucking
Russ.
Cubicle. It's great. He's stuck Russ in a cubicle. Can we talk in this tier? Can we jump to the Lions?
Yeah,
let's jump to the Lions on this.
Okay.
Yeah, they are the most interesting top 10 pick for me. Yeah. They have picked 6 and 18 in this draft. They have Jared Goff at quarterback. They have a roster, even with the Jameson Williams suspension, that should be explosive at all of these positions around the quarterback. They're in a terrible conference. They're in a division that just lost Aaron Rodgers. has an okay Vikings team that should regress, and Justin Fields and a Bears team, which is still a question mark for how good they'll be this year. Tell me why they should and shouldn't draft Anthony Richardson if they can at the 6th pick.
Yeah, they should. They should.
Even though they have a chance to have in a window this year.
Right. So yeah, the part of the reason why they got into this tier is because their division. Them in the Jaguars is like, yeah, you're in a division where you're almost assured a playoff spot. You know, like I feel like they should win the division. They should be in the playoffs. And that's enough to get you some respect, along with all the talent that they have. So going for Anthony Richardson, the problem with the Anthony Richardson draft pick is it's not different for them than it is for anybody else. It's the whole thing about rookie quarterback. So like that's one of the major benefits of having a rookie quarterback is that you can disperse your money elsewhere. If you're drafting a rookie to then sit him on the bench for, people are saying 2 years. I mean, 1 year, I guess. It's no reason not to get him because you have to sit him for 1 year, but you're talking 2 and 3 years. That's an interesting proposition. At the number 6 spot, you normally have a chance to have an impact player. The tough thing is with this particular draft, there aren't guys like that. So that, I don't know. I have that down for me as like, I had him sliding to this spot, Anthony Richardson. If Will Levis is there, I don't think you do it. If Anthony Richardson is there, I think you do it. But the tough thing is like Witherspoon is a great corner out of Iowa, and Gonzalez another. He's not as good as Witherspoon. I think Witherspoon is kind of a class of his own, maybe, of the corners. They need corner help. Go ahead. Well, they addressed corner in the offseason. They went and got Mosley from San Francisco. They got Cameron Sutton also. But if Witherspoon is still there, I think you go for Witherspoon. And then the reason why you consider Anthony Richardson is there's nobody else that is normally the value of the number 6 pick is somebody that you think is like, oh, we can build around this piece. I don't think there's anybody else that's going to be there. Well, I mean, unless I believe the foolishness that you're talking about.
Yeah. But there's also the other thing with Detroit is they're pretty good now. They're not going to presumably be in the position to take someone this high at the quarterback position again. Right. So you just don't this is sort of your shot. Like, I think Anthony Richardson should go 1 in this draft. I really do. I think he's like, it's like, there's only one of him.
Right.
He's bigger than everyone. He's faster than everyone. All of the tape nerds tell me that his tape is better than it appeared. And, you know,
all right, let me throw it back at you. Let me throw it back at you. I like that as an idea, but let's say that Jalen Carter and Anthony Richardson are still available.
At 6?
Mm-hmm. I don't give a damn.
Richardson.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't give a damn who you got on your roster. If Jalen Carter is available, you got to put him on there. But
you know when Bobby Knight was saying, like, you get to Portland, I don't care that Michael Jordan's not a center. Play him at center.
Yeah.
I don't care that Anthony Richardson's not a defensive tackle. But you need to put him out there at defensive tackle.
Yeah. All right. So all right. Here's the argument for Anthony Richardson. The league has changed so much that you've seen teams manage to have some success. Like the Bears weren't winning games, but they were offensively surprisingly efficient with a quarterback that didn't have an offensive line, didn't have any receivers, and has issues with accuracy. It's because of the way that the game has changed. So if you put a quarterback with more physical ability than Justin Fields, if you put him on a team that is talented, is very talented, then maybe you don't have to sit him out. Maybe you can bring him along slowly in the passing game because he's so dynamic as a runner. And that's a different conversation. I think the point that you're making about you're never going to draft this high again is a good one. I'm trying to think of who are the best quarterbacks in the league right now. How many of them were taken at the top of the draft? And I mean, off the top of my head, I always think Patrick Mahomes was like top third, but he wasn't top of the draft. Obviously Burrow was at the top of the draft. Josh Allen, top of the draft. Lamar Jackson was the end of the draft, but he's a unique situation that I don't know will ever happen again because of what he's done is part of the reason why Anthony Richardson will not fall to the back of the draft. Who else? Aaron Rodgers slid a long way. Obviously, Russell Wilson is a third round aberration. I guess Russell Wilson's not an aberration because Dak Prescott also was a fourth round. Herbert, top of the draft. I was just thinking about it.
Lawrence.
Lawrence, top of the draft. My principle about developing quarterbacks is it's much more important to have the situation around them be pristine than it is for his ability to be at the top, because I think the difference between talent-wise of the number one overall quarterback in most years. Now, there's certainly years where there are outliers, where some guys just special. Every 10 years or so, somebody like that pops up. But most of the time, the difference to me is minute. And I mean, not minute, but it's small. It's enough that I think if your roster is better constructed, I'd rather have a less talented, still first-round caliber quarterback, or even top of the second round caliber quarterback. I'd rather insert, and again, like Jalen Hurts, I'd rather have that guy and insert him in a great system, which I don't know. I wouldn't hate if they drafted Richardson, but I also would be like, hey, I got a guy that I know could be an all-pro. Pro Bowler we're starting there with Jalen Carter. I get Jalen Carter and continue to try to build around this. And then also you have this new avenue of NBA style trades that we're having with quarterbacks, where you can package up all your picks eventually and go after a quarterback who's unhappy somewhere. So I don't know. I'm with you as being impressed and intrigued by Richardson, but my second year offensive coordinator. It's a lot.
My only thing that I would circle back on that is just that, it's a situation where it can be brought along slowly. And I think it's actually an aberration that someone who's that athletic playing the quarterback position will be there at the 6th pick. I think this is like an all-time buy low because of a shitty situation at Florida. And the fact that he's really, really raw right now, but we're talking about the right situation could foster that guy into being, he's the only quarterback in this draft who could be the best quarterback in the NFL.
You're talking me into it. All right, go for it. Let's do it. I mean, I had that as one of my in my little spreadsheet.
I'm very passionate about Anthony Richardson.
My spreadsheet of doom that I'm looking at right here. Anthony Richardson is one of the possibilities, and Will Anderson, if he falls there, Richardson's one of the possibilities of him still being around. But I don't know if I would have the heart to do it. But yeah, I guess it feels less risky. You know what? I'm with you. You sold me, or I just sold myself, because you can be good immediately with his physical ability alone. With his physical ability alone, you can put together an offense that's going to be tough to stop. And I'm not someone who wants to rush him out on the field, but the sooner he can contribute, the better off you are. And the sooner he can contribute, the sooner you can find out what type of player he is. And you should probably just go back and look at what the Eagles did and do all of that. Hire some people from the Eagles and do everything that the Eagles did to try to bring along Jalen Hurts. All right.
Let's be very clear. You were talking about Will Anderson. He's the same size as Will Anderson, but faster.
Yeah. I get it. I know. I'm just saying if he's there.
I love the defensive end comps. Every time he's comped to a defensive end, it makes me laugh.
The idea that he's bigger than Justin Fields is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Because Justin Fields looks like a defensive end when he's out there. Whew, yeah, his team is good. Jameson Williams suspension. That matters, I guess. Disappointing. We had a whole long conversation about that. But they have 2 picks. So yeah, they got that. Then later in the draft, do whatever you want. You got Anthony Richardson. I mean, Tyree Wilson might still be around, another edge player. That's something that they do need to address. Is their defensive line, the pass rush is not quite up to like competitive standards yet. Like I mentioned, they addressed corner in free agency, but they need to do something about their defensive front. All right, I feel like we've gone for longer than we normally do. So we only got 2 teams left. Let's try to go quickly with them. I think the Jaguars are slightly more interesting, so I'll go to them first. I like the Jags as a team that's on the doorstep. They seemingly were very poorly coached and then much better coached. And it comes down to Trevor Lawrence coming around and figuring out how to play football. They lost Juwan Taylor, tackle we talked about earlier. He's gone to Kansas City, and Shaquille Griffin, cornerbacks out of there. I like Tyson Campbell, though. They have a young corner out of Georgia. They're going to get Calvin Ridley back, or not back. They're going to get him a true number 1 for Trevor Lawrence, which I think will improve him. They've added, they got Ingram also, pass catcher. So I like this team. They ran the ball well. They have a defensive front that was impactful. They have the 24th pick again, and I think this is just. Am I wrong for saying that they should go cornerback? Am I just a cornerback biased person and think that matters?
No, I mean, they need to fill their needs, and they're still in a position to take, depending on how the draft board falls at 24, take the best available player. But so much of this is going to be about how this team develops around Lawrence and Ridley and Doug Peterson.
And they got a good front with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker are young, explosive players. All right, lastly, let's go Chargers so we can wrap this up after the Chargers.
I got one 60-second add-on after the Chargers.
Do it first.
All right. I had one extra team in the tier.
All right, who is it?
It's the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, I have them in here too.
Oh, sorry. I must have missed that.
Oh, no, I didn't say it. Yeah, the Dolphins are in here too. Yeah, the Dolphins are in here too. And I actually like the Dolphins more than I do the Chargers. Well, depending on how the quarterback survives.
Tom Brady, who knows?
Yeah, I like the Dolphins roster better than I like the Chargers. You're right. I didn't have it in there.
Well, they don't have a first-round pick. So that's it.
It
sort
of
screws up the math on it.
That's terrible.
Right,
yeah, they. You know what? My note about the Dolphins that I had that I wanted to get to that I might have missed was they gonna come out with some wild shit at the beginning of the season because they added Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator, and they got McDaniel, the offensive mind. And training camp is all about going against each other and trying to break each other's offenses and defenses. And you come out of training camp oftentimes as a coaching staff with like some new wrinkles. I'm looking forward to what 2 of the better minds at their side of the ball can come up with, because what McDaniel did last year was incredible. And obviously they went and got Jalen Ramsey to play opposite Howard. I got a burgeoning, I think, front is the way I would put it. Chubb didn't produce the way we expected, but he was still pretty impactful. Solid. So yeah, I like that team. The Chargers, get somebody who can run fast and catch balls.
My only note.
That's it. That's the only note that anyone's had for them since they got Trevor Lawrence. Since they got Justin Herbert.
Guy.
Yeah.
Confusing the whites. I got it.
Bomb thrower. Yeah. Get somebody who can run fast. You got, of course, their defense isn't what it was. Austin Eckler, I think, is out looking for a trade right now. Yeah. But he probably going to be back. Yeah. Their O-line, they got a great tackle who should be healthy again. But the most important thing is getting somebody who can stretch a defense. They're at 21. There should be speed there. Jordan Addison is a name that's come up a lot. They might want to do that. I think Kalijah Cansey is a defensive tackle to address their defense, but that's not fun. That's not what we want. And he's not he's a really good pass rusher, I would say, from the inside, but he's not I don't know. And get somebody who can run fast and catch the ball. Plain and simple. I don't know. There's much more to say about them.
Honestly, get a couple of them. Take Jalen Hyatt in the second round. He's fast.
Oh yeah, I remember that Georgia game. Was it Georgia? Who were they playing? When
Alabama. The Tennessee.
It was Alabama. Yeah, when Hyatt. What do you have? 4 touchdowns? 5 touchdowns?
Yeah, he just took the top off of defense. Incredible.
Bananas. Yep. Made Hendon Hooker into somebody that apparently the Seahawks are going to trade up to draft and build around, even though you said he's old and he's coming off injury.
He is the same age as Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson.
Well, yeah, I can't defend him. Oh, well. Good luck, Seattle. Good luck, everybody else. I appreciate you, Charlie. Sorry for going long, or you're welcome for going long. I don't know. Thank you to Christina Buswell, Sarah Abbott, and Adi Khan. So happy you guys are here. So happy you all are here with me. Bye.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.